So this video is for some newer pinball guys, those of you guys who are super experienced or know all of this stuff. New video later in the week, you can skip this one. Hi everybody, welcome to Mike's Classic Pinball. I am Mike. So I hadn't planned on doing a midweek video this week because I've been planning on filming Skylab all week. I filmed yesterday morning, did last night, did this morning. I got the playfield stripped, got everything cleaned, and got all of the inserts re-glued on that. So that video with all of the other stuff I have left to do, hopefully by the end of the week, because I'd like to see the game go home to Josh over the weekend. So that's the progress on that. But I put out a video yesterday about the mechanics, and a new viewer, I think he's a new viewer, actually left me a question in the comments that I answered him, but it gave me an inspiration for just a quick little video that I wanted to do with you. It was a question about the lock relay. And let me explain what the question was. What's the difference between a lock relay and a hold relay? And what is its purpose? Okay, part one. What's the difference between a lock relay and a hold relay? Major difference is that hold relay is spelled with an H. That's majorly it. It's the same thing. It does the same purpose in the game. It just kind of depends on the manufacturer. Now, there are some differences, and that has to do with the purpose of it. Now, what the lock relay does is, you flip the switch on the game, power goes into the transformer, and then power goes out to the lock relay. And what that does is then locks on. It locks the little plate, closes the switches, that then holds itself on, and does a continuous duty to hold the game on. Then that puts power through to everything else, including the GI and helping the game run. So it's a good kind of test. If you have a game that starts up, but won't, GI won't come on and nothing will happen, it's a good check to see if the lock relay will close, or if the lock relay's gone bad. Williams games, it's a little different. Some other games I'm sure too. I don't have this infinite amount of knowledge on every game ever made. I'm not Clay Harrell. Hi, Clay. So on a Williams games, it's a little bit different, at least on the early to mid 70s EMs. You actually tap the left button and it will fire everything, and it'll turn the lock and the GI and everything on. So if you have a game that won't light up, it's a good place to test. Take a rubber-ended screwdriver and just kind of push the plate on the lock relay and see if the lights come on. Now, if that's not working, there's a couple of issues. Well, there's a number of issues that it could be. But basically, it comes down to one of two things. Number one, there's a problem in the game. Or more likely in that scenario, there's a problem with the coil. Now, on my last video, I showed you how to ohm a coil, or to ohm test a coil with a multimeter. Basically, you go to the chart, check and see what the ohms are supposed to be, turn your multimeter down to a low setting, and test it and make sure that that's within a tolerance. Now, if it's off by a point or two, or if it's off by just a fraction, okay. But if it's supposed to be like an 11 or something, like an 11 point or a 10.6, like I think that one was, and it's like a 3. That means it's shorted out. It's dead and should be replaced. Now, those coils will always look like they're fucked because it's a continuous duty coil and it constantly is holding itself on. There's others in the game that are kind of like that as well, that have a lot of load on them, like the door switch or the door lockout. And they'll look toasty. They might not be toasted and fried, but they'll definitely look it, and that paper is going to be all weird, and it's going to look, or worse, it's going to look like hell. And if it starts looking that bad, then replace it. But it might not need to be replaced. But here's the thing: that coil's like $10. Just go to Pinball Resource, order one, replace it, because it comes to what another issue is too. You'll hear, when you're playing an EM game, you'll hear a buzz down in the cabinet. Unless something else is wrong, that's the lock relay. And it's basically the plate holding against the coil at a very high frequency, holding it on, basically electromagnetically, and holding that plate so that it can hold the connections closed. And that will buzz because it's vibrating a little bit. Now, if it's buzzing really loud, there's things you can do. You can loosen a little bit of tension on the spring, replace the coil, maybe clean the mag points in between the plate and the coil, or adjust the bar on the plate so that it gets better contact. There's a dozen things you can go do. Check out pinrepair.com, which is Clay Harrell's website. There's lots of tips there on how to do it, but if it's got a really loud buzzing, then definitely check it out. If it's just this faint little buzz, don't worry about it. But make sure that is what it is, because if it's something else, you're going to need to look at that. But so that's basically what the lock relay does. Now, there are people, and I've seen this in games, where in order to bypass that, they'll basically bypass the lock relay, and they'll take a zip tie or some tape or rubber band or bits of fucking string or whatever and tie it closed so it's constantly on. Now that thing will go off if there's a massive problem. It's not designed to be held on like that. Okay, that is a lazy way of doing it. And it's an improper way and can be dangerous, because if that is held on and something goes wrong where something needs to short or something's horribly wrong in the game and you're just locking it on, then it's going to sit there like it's in electroshock therapy and get all fucked up. And you're going to burn everything up and you're going to fuck up your game. So be careful with that. If you see it locked on, probably, or if you see somebody's manually locked that on, it's probably a coil problem. It could be something else, but that may be what it is, and it's worth checking. But there are people who will manually lock that on. These are bad people. The people that do that are not nice people. They're the kind of people your mommy told you to not play with. These are the kind of people you don't want to invite to your home, because the motherfucker will never bring a bottle of wine. They're bad people, and they need to be kept from reproducing so they don't infect the rest of the world with their dumb, because these are the same motherfuckers that will bypass a fuse. And I've seen this countless fucking times where they'll instead of the fuse being in there, they'll like take a piece of fucking wire and wrap it around or something like that, or they'll jump it closed or solder it closed, or they'll stick a drill bit in there, or they'll stick a screwdriver end in there or something, or a bullet. I've seen all of it. Or the foil thing, they'll take the bad fuse, wrap it in a fucking gum wrapper and pop it back in there. Again, these are bad people. Don't be one of those. Nothing pisses me off further than that. I just but so lock relay and hold relay, basically the same thing. Sorry, I got super angry there. But that's the answer to your question. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again later in the week.